welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast about game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet, and we're following up on our very exciting Year of the Horse Design Challenge, our first ever part 3.
Yes. It feels like the Year of the Horse because of how many of these episodes we've been doing, yeah.
And the challenge was to design a legendary card with saddle.
We've seen some variations of this where we have kind of the traditional saddle, which is like, I get an ability, but I get a cooler ability if someone saddled me. But we've seen some other kinds of like funnier, like more unusual ones, and I think we'll see more of those today as well.
Yeah, and then we've got some bonus points here, which are Casimir Pulaski Day. The card is or cares about knights. And all men have their appointed time. That's something no horse can change. An effect that lasts indefinitely. And those are, of course, optional, but we'll take a look and see.
Yeah. All right, what do we got first?
Our first submission from today is from Xena. It's Ogilvy Reverse Knight. Okay. It is 4 generic mana, then white and a white. So that's 6 mana for a 4/6 legendary creature horse hero with horses can saddle knights as if they had saddle one. Saddled knights have all abilities of horses saddling them. And damage dealt to horses, which at any time saddled a knight, is instead dealt to the knight they most recently saddled. Okay, I could briefly describe the art here, which is
Yes.
a horse photoshopped to be atop a knight who has been stretched out, I think, to work as a mount.
Yeah,
And
the knight has been stretched out to be maybe, 20 feet long somehow.
The flavor text, which is, all men have their appointed time, that's something no horse can change. Liu Bei, after being told that the Dilu brings its master ill fortune, but before meeting Ogilvy, I'm trying not to giggle so much, but that is very silly.
Is Ogilvy, is that an existing concept, or Ogilvy's just the cool fictional horse we made up?
I think it has the air of like Pig Latin to it.
Oh. Vogel?
Yeah.
It's just a cool horse. Or is it backwards? Eivleego? No.
A variation on
Evil-ago?
a classic Scottish surname of Clan Ogilvy from Angus, Scotland, likely
Oh.
Pictish of toponymical origin and meaning high plain.
Oh. Yeah, it seems to just be for this horse. Liu Bei, this horse is like traveled through time to saddle Romance of the Three Kingdoms generals. All right, let me break this down because both of these are kind of novel. I guess the 3 abilities, really. Horses can saddle knights as if they had saddle one, which doesn't do anything by itself. Unlike crew, just saddling doesn't do anything, which is maybe one of the awkward things about saddle. Anyhow, it also says saddled knights have all abilities of horses saddling them. So this can potentially create kind of like weirdo recursive situations, which may or may not be true for this card as well as we explore it further. You know, I've got Joe Knight here who has just been saddled by a horse. He now also adds horses can saddle knights as if they had saddle one. So now knights have 2 different saddle abilities that are the same. I don't know if that's relevant. Yeah.
Rewording the other one probably to something like, if damage would be dealt to a horse, which during this game has saddled a knight that is in play or that is on the battlefield, that damage is instead dealt to that knight.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got kind of an indefinite. Let me read it as it's written again, because I'm still processing it. Thank you, Xena. Damage dealt to horses, which at any time saddled a knight, is instead dealt to the knight they most recently saddled. This feels like in the digital effects zone, like the memory of this is a little awkward. I mean, it's certainly doable in paper or whatever. And this effect is only true so long as Ogilvy sticks around, or I would read it that way at least. While Ogilvy sticks around, we're keeping track of which horses saddle which knights, and then all your horses could get on the same knight, and then you sort of just have a pariah knight who takes all the
Uh-huh.
damages for from here on out for those horses. And then, like you said, that this may be another version of how to write this text, but maybe what are the gameplay impacts of this text as well? I guess.
I'm looking very briefly at, the pre-existing horses. I think there's a few Wave Break Hippocamp. I think,
Oh,
a horsefish from is this from Beyond Death? Yeah, from
yeah.
Theros Beyond Death. With whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. There's some that I'm like, this seems like a small maybe bump. I guess Caustic Bronco, probably good to just make everything else also into
Hmm.
Caustic Broncos, perhaps?
I guess with the hippocamp, yeah. So let's just take that as an example because it's not super simple, but it's simple enough.
Mhm.
Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. So if the hippocamp then jumped on Joe Knight's back, both the hippocamp and Joe Knight would have that ability. Though I guess you're only saddling until end of turn for the first ability.
Sure. Oh, and because it's sorcery speed, so Wave Break Hippocamp, you've been eliminated. Um, Crested Sunmare. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn,
Mm,
create a 5/5 white horse creature token. Sure,
mm.
maybe we can keep making extra. Oh, and then that also gives horses indestructible, so
Yeah, Crested Sunmare gives other horses indestructible, but now Joe Knight also has other horses have indestructible, which then protects the original Sunmare. There you go.
and if one of the other if one of the indestructible tokens does that token have it doesn't matter. But it is confusing and interesting. The thing that I think is particularly neat about this card
Yeah.
is despite being a haha reverse knight, it's a horse riding a knight. In effect, what this is, hey, here's this cool and powerful horse. Hey, you, Mr. Joe Knight, I'm going to tap this horse so this horse can't attack. You, the knight, are the one attacking, and you are powered up by the
Yeah.
power of this horse,
Yeah.
which is like that is kind of the fantasy of a or of a knight riding a really cool horse that kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
saddle in some ways reverses by having the mount be the one that attacks rather than the mounted creature being the one that attacks.
Yeah. That was like I would say the big discussion around Saddle when that first got introduced to the game is this feeling that like the riders now only barely matter.
Mhm.
You kind of want just like a vanilla token to be saddling your horses, which I guess puts more emphasis on the thing that's actually saddleable. It makes it so that when I have like a big spiky, desert beast, as my mount, it's kind of cool. Like they get the spotlight, they get to attack. But it means that like the cool knight with his lance charging around, doesn't really actually get in any combat. Whereas like the Ogilvy version, like you're saying, is sort of like I get to give an ability to me, the cool horse gets to give an ability to you, Joe Knight. And now Joe Knight is the one being a hero and slashing things and having a great time.
A fascinating design,
Yeah.
a a tricky recursive rules thing, but, expensive cards can have tricky recursive rules sometimes.
You put this on the battlefield and everyone's like, how does that work? And then you're like, let's all figure it out together.
I'm thinking almost like Necrotic Ooze or things like that, where it's just gonna be like, "And here's these 3 cards, just trust me that I've won the game, and now we can
Hmm.
just trust that, yeah, here's,
Yeah.
I've made Walking Ballista into a I've got a Heliod sort of combo or something like that."
The post has been making the rounds from Reddit from Nate Dogg, who's like a judge who's very active on Reddit. The post is called Nate Dogg's Guide to What to Do If Library of Leng Ends Up in Play. This is a famous old card with like crazy weird interactions around discarding. Maybe this mare is the same sort of thing where if this comes into play, now you need to know a whole bunch of new set of rules.
Mhm. I'm thinking about some of the first submissions that we got from Xena quite
Hmm.
a long time ago now.
Yeah.
This is so like, compared to some of the kind of mutate virus stuff
Hmm.
that we would look at, quite a while ago,
Hmm.
this sort of, "Hey, saddle knights have all abilities of horses saddling them," is so much more specific that
Yeah.
it's like, much easier to work with and kinda, like,
Hmm.
envision play, and you could even, like, give that to somebody and, like, "Hey, I'm the one playing this card, so I'm gonna figure out how it works," kinda thing, like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this is my problem to try to solve," like, I think, a really positive way for weird, tricky rules are great when you, the player, and the deck constructor can solve them
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than, "Hey, opponent, you need to also be
yeah,
involved in figuring out what's gonna happen when these creatures come apart," or something.
yeah. Less of the, like, chains of Mephistopheles, like, now the opponent has, like, a bunch of weird cases they have to learn about in order to just conduct their game actions.
Yeah. This is a legendary horse, it
Mhm,
cares about knights,
mhm.
and I think the saddle a horse at any time or horse that is saddled a knight at any time, I think that's kind of indefinite,
Hmm.
or at least I think it's the
And the,
exception.
like, damage redirection stuff is
Yeah,
also, like, indefinite as long as Ogilvy is around, which could be the rest of the game.
sure, sure.
Alright, next up, we've got, I would say, the opposite end of the spectrum. From Mono White Border, we have Justinian the Steadfast, which is legendary creature horse bracket token. It has saddle 1 and it's a 4/7. No casting cost. You can't put this directly into play. Something else has to cast this. The saddling it does not do anything on its own. It's a exercise even more so than normal. It's an exercise in imagination to what we're going to do with this card.
Okay, so is this a legendary knight that enters and creates this token? Kind of,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, what is it? Tosmir Wolfblood that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
Voja, something like that?
Yeah, it makes the big wolf, yeah.
And then maybe it's a really little knight.
Mhm.
Maybe this is an Urbis Protector
Mm.
style, who says, "Hey, I might be small.
Surface protector.
I'm Wart from The Sword and the Stone. Like, I'm gonna be King Arthur one day, but I'm just a little guy now, and here's my legendary horse."
Yeah, I guess maybe like we were talking about a second ago, we can have the human be kind of reasonably sized, like a 2/2 or whatever, the rider, whatever they are. And it has a cool ability that it's going to give once it saddles Justinian. It creates Justinian, and then it has some cool ability whenever it saddles Justinian, or maybe anything else. But the cool thing, like I don't lose out on stats. Like the problem maybe with the cool rider, if in a saddle world, is the cool rider doesn't get to do anything. So here it's saying, well, hey, the cool rider is going to be small, and that's going to be okay because you also get a giant creature that can, get some damage going. If only this token could deal commander damage.
Mhm.
I imagine the rider gives an ability to whatever they saddle. And so Justinian is going to be the best thing for them to saddle, but they can also saddle other things. And that's why Justinian has saddle with no trigger on it. I don't know. Just a nice little nugget for us to ponder.
If this wasn't created by a creature, then what do you think would make this token?
Hmm. Maybe like a legendary saddle, like an
Oh, like an
artifact.
artifact?
Yeah.
Interesting. Like a sorcery, it's like, why isn't Justinian just the creature with, like, an
Hmm.
ETB effect of the other elements of the sorcery? I suppose a planeswalker? Like, "Oh, this this used to be Elspeth used to ride a horse, but now she's got wings and is sparked." That's not a recent thing. That's been around for 20 years. But something like, "Hey, I can't ride a horse anymore because now I'm this, like, godlike being, but
Yeah.
my horse is still around.
Hmm.
Here, I'm gonna lend you my legendary horse."
Yeah. I guess there was the vehicle themed Chandra that would like crew vehicles for you, so you could have the. Well, I guess there's no reason by itself to saddle Justinian here, but
Mhm.
mm, yeah, something like that. Maybe like instead of a saddle, it's like the reins that you use to guide. I don't know that much about horse riding really, but yeah, that would be the other pick for me. Fun little idea.
Our next submission is from Chris Tom Riley.
Hmm.
It's Batburn Bane. It's 3 generic mana, a black and a white, so that's 5 mana for a 4/2 legendary creature Bat Mount. It's at rare, it has flying and Whenever Batborn Bane attacks while saddled, it gains first strike and vigilance until end of turn. At the end of combat, sacrifice any creature who saddled Batborn Bane. If
Hmm.
the sacrificed creature is a knight, you gain life equal to that knight's toughness, and target opponent loses life equal to that knight's power. And Batborn Bane perpetually gains first strike and vigilance.
Hmm.
Has saddle 1.
We got 5 mana, 4 power flyer, so we're already kind of in a good base, like a lot of these saddle creatures. Before we get to the Night Claws, when attacks while saddled, it gets first strike and vigilance until end of turn. Vigilance is slightly late here, because by the time you've attacked, you've probably already tapped.
Mm-hmm.
But the first strike means that even though you only have 2 toughness in the sky, this thing could just take over. It's going to be really hard to block anything besides a chump block. It could even take out like a pretty good sized reach creature, which is unusual for a flyer. And then we got this Night Clause. The Knight dies, and then the Knight drains some life, and then the Knight also gives permanent first strike and vigilance to Batborn Bane.
Yeah. Perhaps the very first, whenever Batborn Bane attacks while saddled, it gains first strike and vigilance until end of turn. That could just be Batborn Bane has first strike and vigilance as long as it's saddled, since
Yeah.
saddling is only ever on your turn. Just kind of shift that timing window
Hmm.
more statically.
I would say that the Knight thing's kind of interesting because it's kind of a downside, kind of an upside, because I lose my
Mhm,
Knight. But the amount of drain you can get out of this, like a flying attacker unlimited or something, you don't need to sacrifice many Knights to this before your opponent's just dead.
mhm. If we wanted exactly 1 mount on Ixalan, well, they would probably be a dinosaur mount, but if we wanted 4 mounts on Ixalan, 1 for each
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
like,
yeah.
or here's 2 vehicles and 2 mounts, or, some kind of combination of stuff. This as, "Hey, here's a way to get flying for strike, vigilance, 4 power flyer
Hmm.
that is also, like, draining your opponent." You have these, I don't know, there's something neat about yes, you're sacrificing any saddling, so it's basically sacrifice a creature,
Oh,
this
okay.
gains first strike and vigilance until end of turn. If that
Hmm.
creature was a knight,
Hmm.
target opponent loses life equal to its power, you gain life equal to its toughness, and this creature gets first strike and vigilance permanently. So it
Hmm.
kind of has it effectively, I think, has that text. Obviously, the end of combat thing has to happen for the life drain element, but I think because of that space, I'm again thinking, okay, knights, white, black,
Mhm, mhm.
giant bats, sacrificing to get kind of white, sacrificing creatures to get white keywords. I always think about the vampires from
Yeah, from
Ixalan. That's
Ixalan,
that's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
thing.
the black white.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually kind of miss that anything that saddles this dies. It's just that
Mhm.
knights also get to do a little bit of drain and hand over some abilities. So it is a little tricky to saddle normally. I guess maybe you're in a situation where, hey, I mostly want to sacrifice knights, but I'm in a deck with a bunch of like blood artists and stuff. So sacrificing arbitrary creatures is like not awful for me. Like I don't mind throwing my 1/1 whatever in the chipper. Hmm.
And assuming that the timing window for the vigilance was shifted a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
you're in some ways saying, I could either attack with this bat normally and have a
Hmm.
creature back to block, or I could
Okay.
get rid of this other creature and have this bat available to block. Do I like that 4 power flyer as a blocker? This 4/2
Hmm.
flyer as a blocker, right? That first strike does, I think, matter more. Um, and also the combat step, like if your opponent potentially does have blockers available or removal
Hmm.
available, if they kill your bat, the other creature doesn't get sacrificed as long as
Hmm.
they're doing it before the bat hits them. That's interesting.
Huh. I think the attempt here of like the mount that eats the rider, and some riders are like I don't know, dedicated enough that they're willing to lay it down in order to power up this like fearsome mount is a pretty cool one that we haven't seen a lot of. We've seen just like the gigantic monster that you have to settle down, but this one never settles down. Like you, it's always going to want to eat anything that saddles it. That's a fun flavor. And a bat mount.
Mhm.
There's like a Warcraft and a Dota unit that was like a guy who rides a bat around, and that was a very classic, especially in Dota. That was a classic character to be Bat Rider.
I like the idea of a bat mount. I think that's somewhat intuitive as far as flying things, flying mounts go. And this hits all of the bonus points, definitely Knight and the perpetually gains for Strike and Vigil. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Next up from Crafted Lava is True is Craig Glotch, Unruly Beastie. Craiglock, I don't know. 2 red green for a 4/2 legendary creature beast mount. 3 mana 4/2. Whenever Craigloch attacks while saddled, it gains double strike and death touch until end of turn. All right. Whenever Craigloch becomes saddled for the first time, it gains saddle 1. Parentheses, this lasts indefinitely. And then saddle 7. Oh, well, here we go. This is like the ultimate example of taming the wild beast.
Yeah, where you keep needing to saddle, but the saddling becomes demonstrably easier, 7 to 1 after you've done it
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
4/2 for 3 mana here. Craig Loch is probably the way it's pronounced with that
Craigloch.
extra T in there,
Okay.
but it is a name that I look at him like, "Oh," you know, when you actually talk to a local, do you find out
Yeah.
it's actually, like, Krayley?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Craiglo.
totally
Yeah. That's I was trying to do that translation live and I failed.
yeah. Uh, Double Strike and Death Touch is a
Yeah.
doozy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, this is like chump block only, and also if you don't chump block me, take 8, which is pretty crazy for a 3-drop.
I also don't think that, like, even double blocking it because it's just like, "Hi, I'm gonna deal 1 point of first strike damage to to 2 of your blockers," right? Because the first
Yeah,
strike
you
damage.
need like to quintuple block it so that like the first 4 get blown up and then the 5th one can actually hit.
Mhm.
I think this is also a reasonable candidate for trying to play it as a commander. Double strike on
Mm,
commanders is
mhm.
quite valuable. It's relatively easy to get down. Even if it dies once, I can put it back down for 5 mana, and by the time I have 5 mana, maybe I have enough of a crew of riders to resaddle it. And then, like, we're in the colors red and green, so we can definitely get trample somehow. We can definitely get power pumping. We can definitely care about high power creatures. This is like starts as like a little bit of a small guy, like a 3 mana 4/2 is sort of like a filler card, but very quickly, once you build the deck around it, once you enable it, you can be commander damaging people pretty hard.
Trying to think of what the easiest way to get 7 power
Mm.
around is. I'm like,
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
there enough cheap, like, wall of razors, wall of torches sort of stuff? Where you
Yeah, I was
get
thinking of defenders or
mhm,
they're in an odd position because they're old cards because most of the walls are old, and so
mhm.
their stats aren't power crept. We need the 2027 2 mana 6/1 defender, something
Yeah.
like that.
Torpid Moloch, one of my favorite old Ravnica cards.
Hold up! Don't be telling people your computer password out loud.
It's a single red mana for a 3/2 defender with, sacrifice 3 lands. This creature loses defender until end of turn. Hey, that's 3
Like
power for 1 mana. Like
the world's most dangerous highlight in like an arena game where you do not want to be clicking this accidentally
mhm.
when you have 3 lands in play and it just auto sacks them.
Yeah.
Because you want to have a couple other cheap ways of getting like 3 and 4 power creatures out. Now you can play all the cards that care about 4 power creatures in red and green. Like a lot of that feels very commandery. And then I think it's just like kind of automatic that in a longer, draft game or something, you're also getting a lot of juice out of Craig Lodge.
Okay, found another one. Lupine Prototype,
Oh yeah, yep, yep. Another
classic
classic.
Eldritch Moon, 2 mana for an artifact creature. Can't attack or block unless the player has no cards in hand. That's a 5/5 for 2.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
just need the power and toughness on the battlefield, even if it doesn't do anything. There's a couple commanders out there that just want the highest power creatures for the lowest cost they can,
Mhm.
no matter the downside, because they're not attacking or blocking. Like I think there's like a Gitrog mount that is yeah, there's a Gitrog mount that's this way too. where it just wants like really high power creatures to crew it. So like there's one here. It's a 4 mana 11/10 that when it attacks or blocks, you have to sack a creature. Well, I don't care because all I'm doing is just using it to crew and then feeding it, or like the old
Mhm.
Yargle kind of stuff too.
Yeah. And I think your point of this being specifically a commander itself,
Mm.
because the saddling discount lasts indefinitely,
Hmm.
which presumably that is like perpetual, that sticks to this, after a board wipe or whatever, hey, a single little token
Hmm.
can get me this Fortune Double Strike Death Touch. So I'm easily deploying a bunch of damage once again.
Yeah, great submission. Love that one.
Our next submission is from Rexer 2. It's Clockwork Delu. It's 1 and a green for a 4/4 legendary artifact vehicle
Hmm.
at rare. Has trample and haste, and whenever you crew this vehicle, it becomes a mount and gains saddle 4 until end of turn. Whenever this vehicle attacks while saddled, if a knight saddled it this turn, it gets +2/+2. And it has crew 3.
Hmm. For some reason, this put me back into like, I don't know, Empire Strikes Back or something, where they have all the crew like servicing all the vehicles, and then the pilot has to get in the vehicle. It's like a two-step process to make this thing do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. We've got some fun art here of a mechanical horse
Hmm.
with, I think, the weirdness of horse legs being translated to
Hmm.
mechanical legs in a interesting way. So this is a 4/4 for 2 mana, but requires you to tap 3 powers worth of power on the battlefield to make it
Hmm.
go, to make
Hmm.
it do anything. And then if you're tapping 7 power total and part of the 4 part of that 7 is a knight, this attacks as a 6/6 instead of a 4/4.
The crew and saddle prices are both pretty high on this, but if these were lower numbers, this would be a really explosive card.
Mhm. Being able to put this down on turn 2 and, okay, maybe I don't get the haste.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Uh,
not being able to attack with it immediately. But then turn 3, I play another creature. That creature doesn't have haste, and maybe it does have 3
hmm.
power. I can then tap it to send in my Clockwork Delu, and then maybe turn 4, I play a 4 power knight. Then I can tap my 3 drop and my 4 drop to attack in with this 6/6.
6/6.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm really shields down
Yeah. Yeah.
and kinda giving up, I think, a lot of equity in terms of what the other creatures are doing, unless,
Mhm.
again, like with, the Crafted Lava Double Strike Death Toucher, unless you have just a whole bunch of power available, or, like, the pilots that crew and mount at 2 greater, 3 greater than their base power, maybe.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah. I this is in such a funny spot because it's like the cheap mana cost, high base stats, the haste, the
Mhm.
trample, the getting bigger permanently. These are all like really desirable things, and then they're all really locked away under multiple sets of locked doors, I guess.
Yeah. If you did have some of the, like, little 1/1 pilots and that sort of thing that can crew and saddle above their power class, above their weight class.
Hmm.
You know, turning this into a 6/6 and then into an 8/8, and then you just have this, like, stronger and stronger horse that
Hmm.
you're going, I I can see it a little bit. I almost feel like the legendariness of this, like, takes away from it a little bit compared to, "Hey, this is a weird, difficult horse. We're gonna build your deck around having a bunch of these out and then a bunch of things to." But maybe you do want it for that kinda commander damage? I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm having a slightly hard time figuring out a home for this, even though a lot of the numbers are really appealing.
Mhm.
But it is still cool to think about. And the Delu
Yeah.
reference is funny too. I think if we got a Delu reference in like a Modern Horizons or something, that would be really funny. What if we had like a
I
Modern Horizons, but it's all universe beyond one-offs?
I mean, public
uh,
domain universes beyond Modern Horizons 4. Now that
yeah, but quick, get a fan. You're gonna pass out. You're gonna pass out. Juliet, take care of yourself.
wow, this is a card about the elephant that Gavroche sleeps in Les Miserables. That's so wow. That's so cool.
They really, really missed on Steamboat Willie's power level.
Okay. So here's what it is
Hmm,
imagine like Sigarda's aid,
okay.
but for vehicles.
Okay.
You put down this 1 mana artifact or enchantment, and it's like,
Hmm.
"Hey, all your vehicles are crude." Like, they just are.
That is kind of how Sigarda's Aid works. That's crazy when you put it that way.
It's like, "Hey, at the end of your first main phase or whenever, like, hey, all this stuff is crude." Beginning of your first main phase, I suppose, specifically for Clockwork Delu,
Hmm.
so that you could get that anyways. And so, that's your 1 mana play.
Hmm.
Your 2 mana play is Clockwork Delu. That's 1 and a green for 4/4 trample haste.
Hmm.
It just is crude, and
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
attacks in. And then you go up from there. I don't know where you go up from there because you you need to also but
Yeah.
hey,
You got other cool vehicles. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
you have the vehicle version of Pure Steel Paladin,
Who is a knight? All right.
and that's your
Somehow
knight.
has 4 power.
And your Pure Steel Paladin knight also has the pilot text that can saddle to it's like a tutu, but it can saddle and mount as though it had 4 power. And that's how on turn 3, you're able to attack in with this 6/6 trample haste that just keeps getting bigger. It's our own version of the Colossus Hammer, Sigarda's Aid sort of hammer time
Mhm.
combo.
Alrighty. Thanks for the card. Kind of a puzzle. I feel like I haven't quite cracked, but that's also good as a submission.
Mhm,
Next up, we've got the Design League winner, Provocative, is here to submit Aziz, Azes, the
mhm.
Cloudbreaker. 2 red, red, 4 mana for a 4/4 flyer. Legendary creature, Dragon Mount. You may look at the top card of your library. You may cast spells from the top of your library by discarding a card in addition to paying their other costs. If Aziz attacked while saddled this turn, you may instead cast those spells by discarding a card rather than paying their mana costs. The saddle 4. All right, another high saddle cost, but for like a pretty big split in the functionality there.
Yeah. If I can get 4 power even pieced together across multiple
Yeah,
creatures,
yeah.
it's interesting that this is a specific free cast that has to be before combat, which is good for not then also putting a whole bunch of other, like, hasty 8 drops or 12 drops or anything else onto the battlefield,
Hmm.
because it's if as is attacked while saddled this turn. So I guess it could be during combat, but it's after the attack step at least,
Yeah, it's probably after attacks. Yeah.
which definitely makes the cheat out nature of this, of discarding a card instead of paying their mana cost, fit better, and then your opponent can potentially just be like, "Hey, I'm going to you still have to follow timing restrictions. I'm gonna try to kill your
Hmm.
dragon, or
Hmm.
I'm gonna prioritize that."
Yeah, that's a good point. It has to survive combat. I would say besides that part, like the doombladiness of creatures like
Mhm.
this, you also have the flexibility if the thing on top of your library is going to help you saddle Aziz, you could probably still recoup the card you discard because you can cast the spell pre-combat. Like let's say there's just a 4/1 on top of your library. Cast the 4/1, discard some card that you kind of liked, but whatever. Then that 4/1 crews Aziz. Then Aziz attacks. Then for the rest of the turn, you get to free cast off the top of your library. Like it even sort of enables itself. I mean, like all these cast off the top things, you go until you hit a land, basically. but being able to free cast off the top is like a level even beyond like Bolus's Citadel or something like that, where as long as you have some way to mess with the top of your library at all, you could get really humongous chains going with this card that are like at the same level as the highest level of these kinds of effects that we've seen.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is vintage cubable, but it feels like it's in the territory of vintage cubable.
If I saw this in either a Gonos cube or honestly okay, obviously these are 2 very different formats, but if I saw
Yeah.
this in Seasons of War, I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll." It would
Yeah.
probably have some hybrid in its mana cost alongside side red in
Wow.
that case. It'd be like
Yeah.
2 blue-green hybrid, single red mana or something like that. But yeah, I think this in kind of high power limited is a
Yeah.
really fun sort of space where it's like, do play creatures and do play creatures that you can actually cast, and then also play really expensive things.
Yeah. This combos in different ways nicely with different colors to me.
Mhm,
If I'm playing blue, that doesn't really bring the creatures that I need, but it brings the manipulation of my library that I need. Whereas if I'm
mhm.
playing like green or something, that's bringing some mana creatures off the top, which I'm then using, on future turns to pay for stuff. So I can get some additional. It's card draw to feed into a green deck.
Specifically with blue, it's possible because this isn't just 1 card per turn.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
this is you don't, like, exile the top and then have the ability to cast or anything.
absolutely.
If you have some card draw spells, whether they're selection or not,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is gonna draw me 2 cards or 3 cards or whatever." I can discard the land that I drew or anything or whatever to cast this to get more
Hmm.
cards, and then I can spend those cards to dig further,
Hmm.
which with just a little bit of density of draw 2s or the occasional draw 3, you can really get a lot of your deck churned through,
Yeah.
and if you also have any sort of, like, storm payoffs or anything
Hmm.
like that, or, like, storm equivalent sort of things, much less if you have a bunch of those things and they're all instants, and then you have a prowess
Yeah.
creature or anything. There's a whole ton of upside available, and as you say, like, will play very differently with different decks. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, very cool card, very powerful. Even if you drop this down to like a retail limited kind of thing where this is just one of the 2 or 3 best cards in your deck, even there it sort of gives when it's in play, it's sort of giving like cycling to your lands, sort of,
Mhm,
because I get to trade the lands from my hand into cards casting stuff off the top of my library. Or
mhm.
cycling for all your bad cards, I guess, into spells off the top of your library. It's always good and then can be extra good in environments with like clever, crazy cards. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very nice card. Fun as a dragon mount. People love that. Yeah, great submission.
And worst case scenario, even if you don't wanna do any of these other things, you still have a 4/4 flyer for 4, which is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
a nice
Ab-
square thing.
Above the air elemental kind of line.
Our next submission is from Minnie. It's Zarhan Zalfir Linebreaker. It's 3 generic mana, a red and a white. That's 5 mana for a 6/3 legendary creature alien mount. It has first strike, saddle 3, and when Zarhan Zalfir Linebreaker is saddled by a knight, permanents the defending player controls lose indestructible and hexproof until the end of the turn.
Hmm.
Huh.
Lose indestructible and hexproof.
So you're able to target them with your red burn spells or your white removal spells. Flavor text here says, "No one's going to take me alive. The time has come to make things right. You and I must fight for our rights. You and I must fight to survive." From Knights of Sidonia.
No one's gonna take me alive. Guitar, 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 guitar. The time is. This is like a Muse song.
Yeah, this is great because Tim and I have different magisteria of, of knowledge. So I get
Yeah.
to learn about this one.
I think I have the CD in my car right now.
Minnie says, I only realized after picking the name that it's very close to an existing character. The name is actually the Hebrew word for the element phosphorus. The
Oh.
card is
Okay.
inspired by the muse song Knights of Sidonia, which has more to do with fighting against tyrannical authority. Since Sidonia is a region of Mars, I wanted to lean into the alien theme, and it got me looking through the lore. Found most things related to the void didn't fit the vibe I wanted, but Zalfir being sort of voided as far as I can tell evokes some sort of creature of the void that could be used to fight back against the Phyrexian invasion. And I like the idea that the folks in Zalfir can be pulling on like Edge of Eternities sort of
Hmm.
stuff to
Yeah.
fight the remaining Phyrexians. That's a
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
There's I think it's over by now, but there was the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. I don't know, which has a
sure.
similar vibe to Edge of Eternity's Alfir to me. This card is mostly it's like unsaddled stats. The saddleness feels like a toolboxy thing or like a specialty thing. Are
Mhm.
there famous like Phyrexians that have indestructible and hexproof that this is trying to kill?
Oh, I totally know this.
Oh.
I'm looking it
Oh.
up. That's the magic of editing. Skrelv can be granting a
Mm,
hexproof from a particular color, and indestructible, I mean, Blightsteel
light
Colossus,
steel? Yeah.
yeah, and then the Dominuses, if you're
Oh, yeah.
upgrading them, but, like, it's Blightsteel Colossus, I think is
Hmm.
the big one.
Gonna need another 5 power, buddy. Do I wanna attack with a 6/3 first strike? Yes, I do.
Yeah, and then if I really need to break a Phyrexian line, or, honestly, let's say they have, like, Blighted Agent, you're up against something like that, and they've put a hexproof sort of aura, kind of a Bogle's, style infect deck or something like that. You can be like, "Hey, I'm gonna cut through using my line breaker plus
Yeah.
my other creatures."
Outer space. I like a couple existing magic things bleeding into Edge of Eternity, outer space, space knights. That's certainly a fun thing. There's been a series on custom magic Reddit of lavender edition magic, which is like adding purple to like alpha and beta. And their version of purple is basically like a nebula is the basic land. So it's all kind of like 70s space sci-fi, 80s space sci-fi book covers applied to magic. That feels like in a similar kin to the alien mount that Zalfir has taken advantage of.
A thing that I don't think Magic needs, but I personally would be interested in would be, "Hey, planeswalking makes sense,
Mm.
but you can actually get from plane to plane. They're just very far apart. Like,
Hmm.
if you're just going geographically."
100 light years or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sometimes fascinated by, like, "Oh, you went back in time, but actually you're just, like, going to this other place." There's a big fantasy game example I wanna make, but it would spoil a big twist in a major Final Fantasy title,
Oh.
where
Mm.
it turns out time is and place and things. Anyways, I'm just thinking about the, like, Bolus's meditation realm. It's just really far away,
Mm.
like, where Zalfir is pocketed away, that's just really far away, and being able to tap into there's a like, Cosmic Marvel. I think as you say, like, the Galactic Wakanda stuff, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna do, like, space scale stuff. We're gonna be talking about the Kree Skrull War
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that." That Magic could easily have as parallel to its
Yeah.
single plane adventures.
And like Edge was kind of like spaceship focused because of, the
Mhm.
mechanics of the set. But there is still some more of the just like weird alien planets, some of that vibe hasn't been fully done in Magic. So there's more room for that.
Yeah. Thanks for the submission, and this hits the Knights.
Alrighty. Next up from Ludos, who I think just graduated, they said.
Ooh.
Yaroth the Splitting Horse, 1 white blue for a 2/2. So 3 mana 2/2. Legendary creature horse elemental mount. Yaroff can't be blocked except by horses. It has saddle 2, and then whatever this ability is going to be wild. Whenever a creature without horsemanship saddles Yaroff, that creature gets +2/+2 and gains horsemanship. This effect lasts indefinitely. A creature with horsemanship can't be blocked except by creatures with horsemanship. I had not read this card yet, and I was just like,
Uh-huh.
it's 3 mana, 2/2, saddle 2. Like, something weird is going to happen with this thing. Horse elemental, and something weird did happen. Whenever a creature without horsemanship saddles Yaroff, that creature gets +2/+2 and gains horsemanship. So Yaroff remains vulnerable and small, but each person that rides it now, is better for it.
Is writing a pseudo token, you're off.
Yeah.
Not an actual token that can be targeted, but it's just part of that creature is I'm assuming I'm imagining this is like a horse made out of like a wave of water sort of thing. That it's a
Okay.
horse elemental mount.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And you could benefit from this multiple times. So, if you only have 2 creatures, Yaroff and Joe Knight. Joe Knight could saddle the first time, get horsemanship and +2/+2. Oh no, wait, it's creatures without horsemanship. So
Uh-huh.
you only ever get to learn from it once. Sorry,
Mhm.
Joe, you're done.
Well, I mean, that
Um,
does make flavor sense of it. The +2/+2 in horsemanship is
yeah.
it
Oh,
it riding a horse. Yeah.
I'm in favor. It's just they already found the exploit. Yeah.
I do like that this requires if your opponent wants to totally be able to block everything just continually, your opponent needs to have both horses on the battlefield and creatures with horsemanship on the battlefield. Two things that I think no deck on graded on a curve scale, no decks have
Yeah.
either, much less both, which
I would say
that's
that
very fun.
only the format made of cards from this challenge is prepared for fighting against Yaroff.
Uh-huh.
I think we saw 1 or 2 of these saddle things before where it was just like saddle is like I'm visiting a thing to get stronger. Yaroff doesn't have to attack.
Mhm.
People could just like tag in like everybody could go visit Yaroff the first turn Yaroff's around, and then if you're willing to go a little shields down, you could just pump all your creatures, Yaroff could die, and then you still have, +2/+2 on all your dudes. And let's call it unblockable.
How would you feel about just envision a parallel sort of card?
Yeah.
1 white and a blue for sorcery with tap the creatures you control, put
Hmm.
2 +1/+1 counters on them, and they gain
Hmm.
fly, or they can't be blocked.
Yeah, that's a fun kind of twist because there's like the white or green cards that are like put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, or put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. And those end up being kind of like overrunny, like, hey, the game's over right
Mhm,
now. And if it's not over right now, I've forced so many chump blocks that the game is effectively over.
mhm,
What you're talking about is more like, hey, take a turn off, but then after that, then you're powerful. That's like a cool niche that it has a little less of the just like instant game overness. It's a little more tactical. I got to be a little more scared, or I get to leverage just being ahead in the game. I've got 4 creatures out. I've gotten my opponent to 5. They can't afford to attack, so I can just tap 4 of my creatures, and now I've gotten 8 of stats off of my 3 or 4 mana spell.
mhm.
Yeah,
Delayed blast overrun.
yeah.
But
Delayed blast overrun. Yeah. Okay. What was it called? Outlast, the old Tarkir
mm,
mechanic.
mhm,
Bringing some
yeah.
of that technology in.
Yarov has the advantage of just being a floor of a 2/2 that is very difficult to block on its
Yeah.
own,
Yeah.
and that you can tap your creatures as you see fit rather than needing to do them in one all or nothing, fell swoop. This is doing a lot, and it all makes sense together.
Yeah, this is a fun card. Where's this best? Is this like your rare, you like your third best, second best card in a draft deck to get my creatures over the top? Is that the home for this?
I suppose this would be very tricky to put in any sort of, pre-constructed sort of thing. I mean, I suppose this could go in a commander precon, but not
Hmm.
in, like,
Hmm.
a starter deck, a jumpstart, and, any sort of, I'm still thinking about dual decks. It's 2026 and I'm still thinking about dual decks. That's life. Um, yeah, because of how much this sets up unblockability, it's a tricky thing to place anywhere, unless, of course, there is just so much horsemanship in this environment, in which case, hey, this is unblockable itself. It boosts the power and it allows your creatures to block other horsemanship things.
Hmm.
In which case, this is like giving flying, but giving reach, in a certain way, like helping you mid range things out. I could conceive a format where this is an uncommon.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
I will say a answer to the riddle at the very top of last week's episode,
Okay.
the double dactyl that
Mhm.
I read out. Horses may change fate, but unprintability keeps us from seeing what horsemanship lacked. What horsemanship lacked was a really strong sense or understanding of the color pie and like how
Okay.
how we set up the color pie and the
Mhm.
things that fit into it, which is, I mean, that's a thing that flying has done a pretty okay job about
Mm,
over the
mm.
years. Flying is definitely spread out more. There's definitely a lot more red flyers these days and a lot more even green flyers these days and things like that. But there's also a lot more reach around, and things like that. So that's the answer to that little riddle is what we see here. Hey, this is a
Mm.
horsemanship card. It's white blue, and I'm like, yeah, I think horsemanship fits white blue very well here
Yeah.
compared to if this was a mono green card, where it's like, okay, well that's true in the riding the Delu horse world, but it
Yeah.
probably isn't true in the horsemanship as an analog to flying world.
Yeah. Avoiding creature combat is not very green.
Yeah.
Kind of fun direct reference to Delu Horus. You found a way to make this card like pretty sane, which I would say is like already a tough bar to clear with Delu Horus stuff. And it seems like it'd be fun to play. And it's a fun card to read too.
Mhm. Our next submission is from Mr. 72.
No, 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 submitter. No, 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 no,
New
no, 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 no.
submitter.
Pew, 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 pew.
Mr. 72's submission is Glurb Adaptive Learner. It's 2 generic mana, a green and a green. That's 4 mana for a 2/2 legendary creature ooze mount at
Hmm.
Mythic Rare with Glurb gains all triggered abilities of creatures that saddle it, and Glurb loses all abilities outside of the combat step.
Oh.
And and Saddle 1 and the flavor text, "I sure do care about nuts." Glurb.
The flavor text. We don't often see the attempts at solving the bonus points with flavor text. That's some innovative technology there. How do you saddle an
But
ooze?
it's true. It's true that I didn't say, "Make this card mechanically care about nuts." So
Oh
if
no.
Glurb has, like,
There's a new
an
hole.
emotional attachment to knights,
Yeah.
then how do you saddle an ooze? Carefully.
You put down a protective layer first.
Uh-huh, you put the saddle on first, and then you get on the saddle. Saddle goes on the ooze, you go on the saddle, that way you don't go on the ooze.
Yeah.
The losing all abilities outside of the combat step, I do think is neat for, like, really capturing, like, attack triggers in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
I it's a tricky thing where it, I think, is intended to be a static ability, but has kind of a triggered, like, you lose all abilities and without, like,
Yeah.
a getting them back sort of thing, but I think it's easy to read and go, "Okay, this means it in a static sense where once it's combat, all those abilities just come right back."
Yeah. If I were reading this like kind of strictly, or how I'd guess this would work, is that it wouldn't have any of the abilities before combat either. So you couldn't saddle it because it didn't have any abilities.
That's a maybe it needs, um, out during the not combat step, has all non-saddle abilities or,
Yeah.
you know, some sort of inversion.
Yeah, because you would need to saddle like, you couldn't even saddle it during combat
because
because
saddles with
it's
sorcery speed.
sorcery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we get the spirit though. Like
Mhm,
you get the triggered abilities during combat, and then afterward they go away. So the idea here is that I want to saddle this maybe with other saddle creatures. I want to saddle this with titans. I want to saddle this with things with good attack triggers.
mhm.
And then I get to keep those extra high value creatures safe while I send in my ooze, who's like stacked up with a bunch of abilities because like four different things jumped on it. Um, it's gaining all those abilities and getting a nice attack off.
If I remember right from the discussion before the submission, there was some discussion of trying to figure out how to word only gaining, like, when this creature attacks, when this creature deals combat damage, those sort of
Oh.
abilities,
Mhm.
and this may be close to the best kind of way to set that up, just
Mm.
with an allowance added for saddle, potentially. And
I
the idea of, "I'm gonna grab all sorts of triggered abilities, but specifically the combat ones," that does yeah, that's a different sort of
yeah,
space
yeah.
for, as I say, like,
Mhm,
necrotic ooze sort of
mhm,
cards
mhm.
or other, um, clockwork engine sort of oozy sort of cards.
Definitely, yeah. It's super a, like, a good way to capture that. A thing I hadn't thought about in the first read here that is kind of cool is if you have other non-saddle related, like non-attack triggers, but just things that are like a blood artist or whatever, you kind of double up that trigger if Glurb lives because the original, let's say
Mm.
blood artist, has that ability. Saddles gives that ability to Glurb, and now you have two instances of that triggered ability during combat. So if you could trigger a bunch of deaths or you trigger, whenever you gain life, whenever an opponent loses life, blah 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 blah, like you get to double those up in a cool way. This card is like definitely priced toward like a combo style because it's like 4 mana 2/2, can't doesn't have any evasion or anything else, so you got to be doing something explosive for this to be worth putting in there. But those players exist. There are people who want to do that for sure.
Mhm. From a rules headache perspective, making this mythic probably makes sense. You could probably put this at uncommon in a a set with
Yeah.
specifically saddle abilities as the major thing that you are kinda, like, targeting and learning from these
Yeah.
other creatures.
If we're talking about, like, limited impact, I feel like uncommon is, like, a very safe place for this card because there might be a limited deck in the format if you, like, stars align, and then you feel cool as hell because like, you're making use of a card that a lot of people can't use, but it's,
Mhm,
like, natural power level, even in a format that has some other mounts, is not or I'm not expecting it to be that high. So, I think, like, giving it to the hands of the people might make some sense.
mhm. I think I want this to have changeling.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like in order to then get also some, when this saddles a horse or whatever, potentially any other, and I'm also thinking about when, Kithkin you control deals combat damage, when a goblin you control dies, different things like that. And that would also, like, quietly make this a knight in addition to the other 100 plus, creature types. And also just looking at this art, I'm like, "Okay, this thing has any creature type you wanna
Mm,
name because it has, that looks like a Yargle frog beast and, like, a
mm.
weird old dude wizard and, like, a snake horse and many other parts of the
Yeah,
ooze."
the changelings we've gotten so is this true? The changelings we've gotten so far have had relatively defined abilities, like, I give myself first strike, or I bring things back from the dead, or I like looking like cats. Their creature types, adapt, but then their abilities seem to be tied to whoever they are. Does that seem true to you, or do you think changeling should also be changing abilities?
I think the one I'm thinking of, there's the Lord Changeling from, Kaldheim, but
Mm.
Cairn Wanderer.
Oh.
As long as there's flying in the graveyard, fear for strike, double strike, death
Mm.
strike, like, that sort of, like, pulling from different things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it makes sense not to have changelings everywhere doing everything.
Hmm.
because they're a nice spice not to overwhelm magic with. But I do think here's this like legendary one that
Hmm.
can do these sort of things. To me, ooze and and changeling, like especially this type of ooze that like, hey, this ooze can borrow anything from anybody. I'm like,
Mhm.
I mean, like an ooze that borrows anything from anybody, that to me is like a changeling in a way.
I guess I also feel the ooze side of like I feel like a lot of the ooze flavor is absorbing abilities, absorbing stuff.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I also understand your love of changelings because I love them too.
Mhm. And specifically the oozes that instead of like splitting into a bunch of forms
Mm,
or
I guess that
whatever,
is another big ooze thing.
instead are like, I'm gonna mirror what you have going on. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that's whether this is an ooze, a shapeshifter, or
Mm.
both is I think up to like the flavor treatment and the
Yeah,
set and
yeah,
how the art comes across and anything else.
yeah, yeah. Fun first submission. You went straight to like crazy technology, forging a new template on your first card for us, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and breaking new ground with the flavor text too. That's a fun
Yeah,
inclusion.
that's true. It's almost like it doesn't qualify for the bonus point, but we have to award just like a principles bonus point for someone, just like overachieving academically in a new way, like an unforeseen way.
It fully meets the letter of the brief of the bonus point. So, like, I
I,
gotta give it.
man, I am not ready for that level of interpretation of all of our bonus points. I need at least a 4-year English degree to be ready for that, and I'm not fortunately, I have you, but,
We'll bring M-Dub on to give.
yes.
According to, this codicil filed on the
Yeah,
2nd of the month, the
yeah.
bonus point, actually.
We have to, like, convene the computer science major, the English major, and the legal major in order to, like, really process these bonus points.
Oh, but while this isn't written down, the second time we read this design challenge out on the podcast of the
Yeah,
previous month,
uh-huh.
Tim mentioned this thing, and so we that counts as precedent.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Anyways.
Yeah, I'm willing to be overridden by myself in the past. That's already
Yeah.
a known loophole.
Yeah, as long as it happens, outside of combat, right?
Yeah, they lose their meaning. If I say it just like you hear me say it in a game store, it doesn't hold up. Uh,
Uh,
so that as hopefully everyone who's listened to this knows, this was not just like our usual challenge as usual sort of thing. There was like a rallying cry put out to like how can we get this as close to the 36 joke number that Tim put out there. And one of the people who answered the call is Caillou, long-term community member, huge for helping Beacon of Creation grow. And they even came by and gave us a card, which is Gloria Academy Darling. This is 3 red, white for a 5/5. So 5-mana 5/5, flying haste. All right, we're good. Legendary creature, dragon at mythic. Whenever Gloria attacks, if she was saddled by a knight this turn, untap her. She gains untap each creature you control at the beginning of combat on each player's turn. This ability triggers only once. Saddle 3. So 5-mana 5/5, saddle 3, pretty doable. And then sort of like super vigilance.
mhm.
Like give your team vigilance once you've befriended the knights.
So 5/5 for 5, flying haste, saddle 3. Great. Oh, why wouldn't I just want to attack for this?
Yeah.
Well, if you have 3 power of other creatures available, you play this first main phase, you tap your 3 other power of creatures, and if one of those is a knight specifically,
Mm.
Gloria then attacks and untaps. So we've got our haste vigilance, like we talked about
Mm.
in the first episode, I want to say. Flying haste vigilance here. And then effectively, for as long as Gloria is on the battlefield, all of your creatures are always available to block in every opponent's combat step.
Hmm.
And if any of them have any tap
Yeah.
abilities
Mhm.
or anything like that, then you can be using a lot of those. You know, if you have Arcanist the Omnipotent, you can draw 3 cards each turn.
Just start scooping them, yeah, absolutely.
Or more sensible red-white things, perhaps.
If you have, like, a looter or something, you're already starting to cook and limited at least. I mean, you're cooking and limited because you have a 5/5 flying haste, but
Mhm.
you're getting over the finish line there. There was, like, a commander print in Neon Dynasty. Oh, it's back in Secrets of Strixhaven. I've seen this card a couple times. Drum Bellower, which is a white card. Untap each creature you control during each other player's untap step. So that's like a way to just like repeatedly untap your creatures as you go around the board in white. And that's sort of what Gloria is doing as well. Gloria is untap each creature you control at the beginning of combat on each player's turn. So you don't untap during the untap, but who cares? Those are basically the same. Or not who cares, but just as good.
Mhm. I think the top cards that I would wanna fit with this,
Yeah.
Sirkara the Bold from original
Oh yeah.
Eldraine. There's a number of 3/3 knights with tap abilities. Sirkara has just tap, deal 1 damage to any target.
Mm.
Pentarch Paladin, back from Time Spiraled, pay 2 white, tap this, destroy target permanent of the chosen color. Like, you choose a color
Oh.
and you can just destroy stuff, which is a callback to Northern Paladin and Southern Paladin, which are also 3/3 knights that can tap to destroy black permanents or red permanents respectively. So
Oh.
within red white, there's a number of 3 power knights that you could curve into Gloria with, or play alongside Gloria to
Hmm.
ensure that you get this trigger, and then ideally can just start removing things from your opponent's board, whether or not you're painter serving to get there, or something.
If we're just talking about like commandery staples, trying to tie this into our understanding of that format, maybe like a Mother of Runes, keep it protected, untap it all the time.
Mhm.
Krenko, if I want to do a little goblin-y stuff, I could be getting Krenkos
Mm.
every turn rather than every turn cycle. Micaeus, oh, that's a classic. Keep growing Micaeus or keep growing your team every player's turn. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff to do with this in Commander. It's going to murder people unlimited. It gets kind of close to something you might do. Like if they're just several good 3 power knights in a format, maybe you put this in like a custom standard kind of context.
Yeah, I think standard is probably the highest power. I mean, obviously, commander is the highest power level,
Well,
but I
yeah.
think I think standard. You know, there are worse cards that people do occasionally play in modern. I don't know that that's the target for this, but the floor of Flying Haste 5/5 is
Yeah.
neat, but it really does make you kind of internally go, "How many nights can I play?" I'm again thinking about like a Seasons of War style, powerful
Yeah.
commander limited environment with like a 40 card deck. It's like, okay, I'm going to prioritize my Goblin Knight 2 drops
Mm.
over my Dwarf Cleric
Mhm.
3 drops,
Mhm.
even if I have some other synergies elsewhere, because, hey, this can allow me on a board stall to be able to do some extra stuff. Or honestly, even if it just, hey, this says knight, I want to include my knights in this deck. That's all the reward. That's all the incentive that I need sometimes
Yeah.
for deck building.
Yeah, just like a fun thing to shoot for. I want my 4 knights in my Seasons of War deck or whatever to give me a chance of saddling this. I guess, like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to find, like, a good comp that I know from Standard, and I guess the most recent one that seems about right is Goldspan Dragon, which I'm not trying to say is, like, a straight comp, but that was
Mhm.
a 5 mana 4/4 flying haste, so a little smaller. When it attacks or gets targeted, you get cool treasures. Is getting, like, some extra treasures here and there, is that, like, pretty comparable to this, like, untap clause? The untap clause has a little more setup, but I get a little more size. So, it doesn't seem like it's out of line with a card like that.
And in a world where we're going to see more red mana producing creatures, there's more, hey, I need to always have my shields up for some other purpose. That kind of mana analog can be
Hmm.
considered. This is a fun way to do perpetual sort of thing, is to have have an
Yeah.
ability that gains an ability, but that ability only triggers once.
And, you want if you're gonna do, like, a triggers only once or something, you should try to use that for abilities that you will remember whether or not you did them. Like, you wouldn't wanna, like, this triggers only once on a +1/+1 or something that's, like, kind of invisible. That's hard to track.
Mhm,
But here, did I put knights in my deck? Yes. Did I have them this game? Oh, yeah. There's the knight that I used to saddle this thing. It's, like, pretty easy to remember.
mhm. Flavor-wise, the idea of here's a friendly dragon who helps people at the Dragon Riding Academy or maybe just at the
Yeah.
Knights Academy or something like that,
Yeah.
learn to be, more vigilant, to be pseudo vigilant. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think adds up together, both the bonus points there.
Nice.
Our next submission is not a mythic dragon like Caillou's card, but from Mythic Dragon, it's Frightmare Bat. It's 2 generic mana, a black and a black. That's 4 mana for a 4/4 creature vampire bat mount at rare with flying and fear.
Ooh, throwback.
And when this creature deals combat damage to an opponent, create X blood tokens, where X is the total power of creatures that saddled it this turn.
Total
Has
power of
saddle
creature.
1.
Huh. Wow, that's pretty legit. 4 mana, 4/4 flyer, so we're like, above the air elemental line. It has fear, so it can only be blocked by artifact creatures and black creatures.
Mhm.
So like super flying, I guess. Because how many other black flyers are there? How many flying artifact creatures are there? Yeah. It has saddle 1, but you'll probably want to oversaddle because when this hits, it has to hit the opponent, but when this hits, you're going to get blood equal to the power of creatures that saddled it, which getting a lot of blood at one time is quite good. That's like a very nice ability. So even like crewing this with 4 power worth of stuff you have around, getting 4 blood tokens, that's a legit like pretty close to like even like commander, theme deck kind of stuff that I want to be doing. I have a vampire deck. I would want to put this Frightmare Bat in there so I can get more blood for my blood synergies.
I remember when the first Flying Fear creature came out,
Okay.
back in Cold Snap. We had
All right.
Phobian Phantasm, and then very soon after, the next set after, Dust Elemental, which is a mono white Flying Fear
Mm,
card sorry, not the very next set, 2 sets later, Planar
yeah.
Chaos, of course. And those are the only 2 that have permanent Flying and Fear. They came out within the same year, which is a fun, weird
I
old
th-
thing.
I think I may have seen Dust Elemental before, but Phobia and Phantasm is brand new to me, or simply slipped over my brain as I whenever I've looked at it in the past. 3 mana Flying Fear with cumulative upkeep.
Yeah. I remember learning it because it's like, "Hey, Juliet learned for the first time that multiple levels of evasion, like, sometimes are helpful, but a lot of the
Hmm,
time, like Flying Trample, Flying Fear, these
yeah,
things, like, they don't add the thing that you're used to thinking about either of these
yeah.
as good, so therefore both is better. It's like, but both might not be any better. Um, for Frightmare Bat in particular, I personally really have always been interested in kind of bid mechanics in Magic. Things where you say, "Hey, before combat, I'm going to pay some cost."
Hmm,
And then if
okay,
this gets to hit the opponent, then I get some effect.
yeah,
It's sometimes a little bit tricky because, like, if you don't, like, win what you've bid, if you don't get the thing out of it, then you've, like, really lost something in the bargain. In this case, it's so flexible for how much you want to saddle, and extra blood can be useful, but sometimes even just 1 blood helps a lot because that helps you
yeah,
get through, like, the
yeah.
land that you drew and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like clues, the first one is the most valuable and they kind of taper off, but even like I think blood is easier to weave in than clues. Like I've
Mhm.
had a couple of games where I just had like 4 clues and it's like the game's going to be over before I can cash these in. Um yeah,
Yeah.
blood is very nice in its ability to get you exactly what you need to have a game end.
Flavor text here. "Well, aren't you a cute little fellow?" Ah. Onyx Brimstone Curious Explorer.
Yeah, although this is a Frightmare bat with fear that creates a ton of blood every time it hits. It looks like a Pokemon, like a baby Pokemon. Um,
Charming, cute little guy.
nice card.
In this particular case also, the kind of bid is not difficult because it really is just does your opponent have
Mm,
removal? Or I suppose, like, flash thopters that can enter or something like that.
mhm.
Otherwise, you know pretty well in your first main
Yeah,
phase
Thopters.
whether or not
Okay.
this is gonna hit.
I guess now that we have Thopters, Flying Fear, it has a chance of being chump blocked.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not enough Skitherixes flying around to pose a threat to this Frightmare bat.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more buzzer after the buzzer submission here from our pal Spice Duchess.
Which we retain the right to not always review,
Yeah.
but this time, it's exciting. We're doing 3 episodes. We've got the time for it.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, we hypothesized about this earlier, but let me read this card to you. Backbreaker, red, red, red for legendary artifact saddle. And then it has this extra designation, parentheses, saddles are equipment, of course. Equipped creature has saddle 3, and this creature has haste and double strike while saddled. It doesn't seem to have a saddle cost, but it has a separate ability of 2 and a red, gain control of target creature until end of turn, and attach this to it. Create Satan the Rider, a legendary 3/3 red devil token. This is an equipment that doesn't give anything right away, but it gives saddle to eventually gain haste and double strike. It doesn't have an equip ability, but it sort of has equip ability because you could use this on your own creatures. 2 and a red, gain control of target creature until end of turn and attach this to it. You can pay 2 and a red just to throw it on a creature that you control, or maybe what you'd rather do is throw it on an opponent's creature so you could put Backbreaker on it. And then in addition to equipping it or grabbing a creature and equipping it, you also make Satan who can saddle your creature for you.
Yeah, the saddle 3, but you're making a 3/3 that can then do that?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like it doesn't technically directly, the saddle doesn't directly give you haste and double strike, but it supplies the thing that can give you double strike and haste. So it's really close to giving you haste and double strike.
If your opponent only has, like, creature removal and not artifact removal, sometimes
Yeah.
you will just, "Hey, I'm spending 3 mana, and here's my here's my token back to bother you again," sort of thing. We've seen stuff like that with, Corey Steelcutter, I suppose, to a minor degree. This is, a little bit of a in a sense, 6 mana, I guess 3
Mm.
on an installment plan here.
Mhm.
The 3 at the beginning and then the 2 in a red to activate this, to
Yeah.
get a act of treason that doubles the creature's power.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That math kinda adds up, all things considered.
That feels like kind of the baseline power of this card. Um, I guess in addition to crewing or equipping your own dudes, but yeah, like at a base, I pay 3 to have this thing, and then from now on, I can active treason whenever I want. And whenever I do that, I also get to either create or recreate Satan. I think there's like about a billion gameplay implications to this card.
Mhm,
Uh, which are even past like what we might call like the intended route of the card of like throwing it on your own creature and then creating Satan to ride your creature or
mhm,
grabbing your opponent's creature and doing that. You could gain control of multiple creatures until end of turn. Some of them won't have haste, but you can gain control of multiple creatures.
mhm,
You can sacrifice Satan in between each of those to like to have like a 3 power thing to sacrifice over and over. You can
mhm.
gain control of stuff during other turns, though you can't saddle during other turns.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We've got active aggression. Is that the,
Oh,
Phyrexian mana, instant speed active treason, if I remember right?
it's sort of like a fog in a way because opponent attacks you with a 6/6. You pay 2 in a red, you gain control of it. It's not attacking anymore. Uh,
And I'm creating a new legendary devil token, so even if I've tapped the other one to
mm,
saddle, I
yeah,
can now have an untapped 3/3 blocker because I can just sacrifice the previous token.
yeah.
So
My new
that's
Satan
that's
can replace the old Satan. Yeah,
that is quite the, that's quite the instant speed, sort of trick there. That might probably work better with a sorcery speed clause maybe.
yeah. I think I am up for something this. I mean, Spice Duchess was laughing at me for going Commander Brain
Mhm,
last episode, but like, I think I'm up for a card that wreaks this much havoc at a commander table. Like, I think I could be cool with that, but if we're gonna make a card that high impact for, just changing the rules of combat in this commander game, I would like the purpose of it to be a little more focused. Like, it's gonna take a minute and a half for you to explain the implications of this card to the rest of the table, I guess, rather than it just being something that hits the board and has an obvious, like, clear effect of why it blows up the table. Um, Maybe not, that's not what's intended. Maybe the goal is really just to have, like, this kind of balmy way to end a game where I can, play it, steal a creature, next turn, steal 2 creatures. My opponent has no chance of blocking. I'm gonna, have haste on the coolest of those creatures, double strike it in, just murder people. Yeah,
yeah.
all the saddle mechanics kind of confuse what I feel like is the true power of this card. Um, though it is a very cool card. The art's sick. It's got some cool quotes on it too. This is like peak, Devil in the Desert kind of like The Stand or the Dark Tower Stephen King stuff like they've got on the flavor text here.
Mhm. It's a shame that this is a saddle
Mm.
challenge, though I do think that probably fits this particular, Stephen King, Satan
Yeah.
sort of character, like the writer in this way. Because if this was a vehicle challenge instead and had all of
Mm.
this, we could more directly fit. Tim, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Cake, classic like
Yeah.
the distance,
Okay.
short skirt, long
Short
jacket.
skirt, long jacket. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Going the distance. Yeah.
and their 1998 album "Prolonging the Magic,"
Yes.
whose opening track is "Satan is my motor."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Familiar with that song.
Satan is my Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just if this was a engine that
Rider.
made a 3/3 Satan
Oh,
that could
okay.
then crew
Mm.
your creatures, be like, "Hey, this wasn't a vehicle before, but it now has crew and" you know.
I guess the other kind of funny thing flavor wise to me with this, so the front picture is like the back of a cowboy wearing like a duster and a hat. And then their coat has sort of like a couple rungs on it. I don't know what to call
Mhm.
that. I don't know if there's, I'm missing what the normal purpose of this is, but there are like 3 or 4 of these like horizontal bars attached to the coat. Is the kind of idea here, I don't know what this could normally be for, but is the idea here that Satan's like literally going to jump on those little rungs and ride you like kind of Yoda style?
I I don't know, like, this is called Backbreaker, so is it like
Okay.
a
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna make another reference. So in the Friends of the Table
All right.
season Counterweight, it introduced in the faction game, as a callback to the Kingdom game, there's a divine
Mhm.
called Integrity, which is like it's what if a mech suit, but it literally was just, like, along your spine?
Mm.
And, being integrity and everything, it's like, "Oh, this gives you, like, a backbone and does you don't have a choice about how much of a backbone you have."
Mm.
Uh, but I'm imagining, okay, this is backbreaker. This is like is this like a burden that you constantly feel on your back? Is this like a
Mm.
weird it gives you haste and double strike because you like the devil's coming after you. You've got this thing that you can't take off and you just got to keep riding as fast forward as you can, maybe.
Yeah.
I have not read The Dark Tower to
Yeah, me
really
either.
know.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, this is a cool card. It's funny to get a Satan token. That maybe
Mhm.
another entry in our only free copyright universes beyond Modern Horizon set. Uh,
Gosh. Okay, okay. Now I'm imagining,
All right, fan yourself,
like
fan yourself, fan
yeah,
yourself.
and me with "thee hath ruined" as a, like, each player sacrifices 2 creatures
Someone
sort of
get the ice
spell.
packs. Juliet's gonna melt down. The core is
Okay.
overloading.
And then, like, the Paradise Lost cards also work with the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein
Mm.
cards. Um, it's all
How many Shakespeare cards? Does Shakespeare get a whole mechanic in the set? I don't know.
Thanks, everyone, for your submissions to
Yeah,
this,
we gotta get off this topic before Juliet,
uh
like, explodes. Yeah.
well, no, we'll wrap back around to it, it'll be great.
Oh, okay.
This was a challenge that I did not expect
No.
to be our record breaker by
Yeah.
any stretch of the imagination. Of the cards that we looked at today,
Hmm.
any ones jump out at you, Tim?
I think in terms of, like, me playing games of Magic: The Gathering, what card I would wanna play the most, I think it's gotta be Craiglotch, which was the 3 mana, 4/2, can gain double strike, has a heavy saddle cost, but then an easy saddle cost. That, like, puts me in the mindset of, like, a very Voltron-y sort of, like, commander damagey card. Um, so I think that, like, that had a little bit of technology on there, like reducing the saddle cost, but then just the number, positioning as a commander, all that kind of stuff was really appealing to me. There are a bunch of other cards. The play cards off the top, the Bolas's Citadel Dragon, that's definitely a
Mhm,
pretty exciting
mhm.
one too. There were multiple cool dragons this time around. How about you?
Yeah. If there is no timing, sorcery speed, restriction sort of thing on Backbreaker, I think I would love to be
Hmm.
stealing creatures and making tokens and sacrificing
Mhm.
them and
Mhm.
doing,
Mhm.
all of that. So that is, I think, kind of high on my tricky, playful, spiky
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
silly sort of play, space. If there is a timing restriction on that, then I think Yaroff the Splitting Horse
Okay.
as, like, "Hey, here's a way to put all of your creatures on horses, in a mechanical way without needing to create a bunch of tokens with saddle," if that makes sense? Like, we're
Hmm.
saddling 1 horse to give everything else horsemanship in a way that I think kind of fits in a fun flavor of the mechanics sort of way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. A lot of great submissions there.
And the end of the design challenge at long last marks the beginning of another our April design challenges. April Fool Us Planar Chaos. Submit either a real card with the name, color, and any relevant creature types changed, or submit a custom card. Either way, you should include spoiler text in your Discord submission here, either with the real card's card name or revealing that it's a custom card. We'll be both reviewing the cards and guessing which is which on the pod. So, can you fool us?
Yes. Yes. This was super fun last year. You're gonna love it again. Remember, this year the twist is you gotta color shift it. So if you have a red card, it's gotta become something not red. Like, it could be multicolor, it could go from red to colorless, but it's gotta leave red behind.
If we see a monocolor red card, it's like, I don't think this could exist outside of monocolor red, then we might go, well, that's probably going to be a custom card. So if you
Mm,
submit a custom card, we will also be trying to think of what its original color might also be. So we'll
yes.
be thinking about it across multiple different contexts there.
Yeah. Do you think this is gonna make us easier or harder on us? I'm not sure yet.
I think it will add an extra stage to the design
Mm,
critique and analysis.
mhm.
And we will find out in practice whether we get fooled
No
more or
prediction
less.
filed. Okay.
Yeah. We got some bonus points to help narrow this down for you. They are optional, of course, but they're fun. The first is Times Spiral. The card has X in its mana cost or in the card name slash both of the card names if
Yeah.
it's got double both. And Future Sight. The card has 3 lines of rules text or fewer.
Ooh, that's the prayer emoji one. Please help us out. While our brains are melting, just only give us 2 sentences to read.
Yeah,
Yeah, April 25th, get that in. That might be 1 episode or it might be another 3 if we get a million submissions again, so we'll see.
yeah. I don't a fun thing about that is sometimes encountering a canon card, thinking it's a custom card, and going, "I don't know that this would be printed," and then it's like, "Yeah, this is a forgettable card from Magic 2018 or something," you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. We were kinda scoping out the new hole in our memories of, the, like, draft cards or whatever cards from maybe, like, 7 to 10 years ago. We're starting to forget cards from those sets. Like, the newer sets, I've played those enough that I probably still remember most of those cards. Like we talked about earlier, you had the memory for some, flying fear cards that they printed before they deprecated fear. So you've got a little bit of coverage there. I've got a little bit of early Magic. Between us, we have a lot of the timeline covered, but there are some holes, and see if you can find those.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they can be brand new cards because, of course, over 1,000 cards are printed every year these days,
That's
so
true.
it's
Yeah. So you hit me with just the right Doctor Who card, and I'm also going to be helpless.
all very exciting.
But that'll be it for the podcast for the week. Hop on the Discord. We're just finishing up Strixhaven, but there's still some discussion around that. But most of all, we'd like to have you on there in order to either submit to design challenge or maybe get in on one of these design games. These have been
Mhm.
firing a lot more frequently lately, where people just coming through and say, "Hey, design a card that does this," and then you'll get another 10 people responding with different ideas, different ways to solve the problem. So if you like the problem solving y part of design challenges, that design games channel might be even better for you.
Yeah. Like this week, it was, design a card that is, like, preparing a spell if it was, like, your world
Mhm.
champion,
Oh, yeah.
sort of card. So I made one with, that could cast stomping slabs. Uh,
Okay. All right.
everyone's favorite
Hmm.
Morningtide, obscure Morningtide rare, stomping
Juliet,
slabs.
quote, "stomping slabs," end quote, mouse. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly how I think of.
Yeah.
All right, seamless edit incoming in 3, 2, 1.
The Moonshot Network is excited to announce our Memorial Day weekend charity stream, Moontropolis, the City on the Moon. This May 22nd through May 24th, the enterprising entertainers of the Moonshot Network will be streaming to fundraise for Advocates for Trans Equality, a non-profit fighting for the legal and political rights of transgender people in America. We'll have our own Moon Mayoral debate, a table read of 1987's Moonstruck, and returning favorites of streams past. We're also building out new segments, like a speedrun race of I'm sorry, did you say street magic? Help us build the city on the moon by tuning into Moontropolis, a good time for a good cause, streaming May 22nd through May 24th at twitch.tv/moonshotnetwork or moonshot.mov.
Oh, that sounds great, Juliet. I'll make sure to tune in. Unless you already edited me into the promo that you cut.
And here's Tim F. Riley.
You just
Okay,
soundboard me into just all the
I think we gotta call it here.
all right, we're getting too loopy. We read too many mount cards that blew our mind.
But that is the callback to the Shakespeare bit, which is I've been working very hard on an exciting, Shakespeare word game, that I've already
Oh,
playtested twice this week with
okay.
folk. So stay tuned for that charity stream because if you like silly Shakespeare word games, there's some coming up.
Last Shakespeare thing was the Sonic the Hedgehog Shakespeare.
Sure, yeah, yeah, the,
Yeah.
Sonic in the State of Denmark. Yeah.
Well, if you need to find either of us, Discord is a place to do that. And most of all, everyone, thank you for submitting and listening.
Okay.
Wait, that's more of like a I'm haunted noise. What am I doing? Nay.
As Shakespeare would say, "Nay."